Does anybody either read this in the agenda or see this slide and wonder what the heck we're going to talk about? So, a little of my story, and I'll dive into this. I've been selling real estate almost 20 years. I'm still actively producing and in the trenches. And although I was checking boxes, which I'll dive into, achieving goals, hitting these certain metrics of units in GCI, some other personal achievements I'll dive into, I started noticing some real pain in my body, like deeper than just not recovering after a workout, to the point of I thought I had arthritis at 33. And so today I'm going to tell you my story and really kind of connect the dots on, regardless of success, energy, and fun all along the way, as opposed to getting really motivated at a conference like this and saying you're going to do those, what did Vince say this morning, 2 or 3 things, and then write them down, and then you're up at 5 a.m. next Monday, super motivated, but by Thursday you've slumped back into your same habits, right? So how do we stay at that? So this whole presentation is focused on optimizing you. What are the little things you can work into your routine, into your business, into your family life, and into your personal life, and perhaps a little bit about what you're putting in your mouth and how all of that affects your energy levels, your motivation, and really your ability to connect with your sphere. At the root of that, if you're connecting with your sphere, you're going to grow your business. Next one, Adam. So, I'm going to need some real answers. Why are you here? For those of you that have traveled decently far, why did you come to this conference? Okay, networking? Interacting with people? Okay. What else? Yeah, better yourself. So self-improvement, get to know people. People sometimes be thinking, oh, well, at the root of it, more closings, more money. They're all reasons, right? Not necessarily good, bad, or indifferent, but everyone has different reasons. Next one. You find yourself, this is how I felt the first 10 or 15 years of my career. Anytime I went to a conference, okay? Anybody knows Gary Vee? He's just super loves Tony Robbins, you know. And I often found myself with those few things written down. I pride myself on being an implementer, and excited to get back and implement them. But then I too would fall into kind of my same habit. So here was the following week. You're just back to work, staring at your computer, right? So the kids know, I have 4 kids, ages 13, 11, 8, and 2. And yep, I had a newborn in my 40s, so that's a whole other story. But it probably has to do with a lot of this hippie stuff I'm about to teach you. Why I have a 7-year gap. So I have quotes around my house. Now, they're not quotes that I made up, okay? But you'll recognize some famous quote language in the ones I'm going to tell you today. But I put my own spin on them. And one of those quotes is, you can dare to compare, but beware, you'll lose your hair. Okay? So in relating to conferences, I would go and I'd be all excited and I write these things down I would do. But while I was there, and I didn't know this, guys, till later on in my career. But earlier in my career, when I was chasing people that had more production, more units, more GCI, I found myself with an undertone in those conferences of going, oh man, well, that person does more than me, or that's better than me. And on one hand, I wanted to learn from them, better myself as an agent. But I'll be brutally honest with you. On the other hand, I'd get competitive. And I'd get like a little bit jealous or bugged or go, you know, why is that not working for me in Utah? It works for somebody else. And so what I'm starting to plant seeds with you on my story that I'm telling you today is how I really had to start thinking about things different for my whole world to change. The production still came, but I got back to enjoying it. So a little more about me. $500 million in volume, managed 2 luxury brands, Berkshire Top 100 since inception, broker liaison to the Rethink Council, corporate speaker and trainer for VHHS. I own a software company called Digit.com. We do 50 to 100 doctor relocations around the United States annually. I refer all those out. This is my brother Adam here. He owns Breen Homes. We started that business together, new construction, development. And in this same series of time, I was National CrossFit Games athlete. I got my NPC bodybuilding card, did a few competitions, and I was a top 100 nationally ranked Spartan athlete. 4 kids, 2 dogs. Wow, sounds pretty cool, right? I mean, I thought I was kind of cool. I'll be honest, I did. And then I went, what's all this for? And I started having those like midlife crisis questions popping up in my head. And for me, at the time, I would have never said this was a blessing, but at the time, I started getting these deeper body aches I mentioned. And I started doing these competitions. I'm like, I'm not recovering, I'm not repairing. So I went down the rabbit hole. I mean, you can probably guess, what does a type A sales type personality do if they have a problem? Chuck, like how would you resolve that?
Find a problem?
Yeah, just any sort of problem in your life.
Figure it out and then find a way to push through it. Just keep going.
Yeah, type A, I became a total junkie for any supplement I could take, somebody said would fix this or that. Any contraption I could buy. I mean, people look at me weird on airplanes. I'm almost carrying a Theragun, and I wear a Harpy, like frequency emitter signal that is supposed to put you in a good mood. So I'm spending thousands of dollars, and I could take you down a rabbit hole. I did 2 week-long inpatient stints at the Human Garage in LA, in Venice, to really kind of, at the time I was thinking I was going to fix this soreness or what was ailing me and try to find a fountain of youth. So I hit burnout. I didn't know I was, but I got totally burned out. And in real estate, I can relate this for you. One of the signs that you've hit burnout is that gut drop feeling when you look at your caller ID and it's one of your clients and you do not want to answer. I mean, does anyone get that? Okay, I mean, there's good transactions, you're stoked to talk to someone, right? But I'd be like at conferences like Chuck here, I'm like, these 10 listings and blah, 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 blah. And then I'd listen to Vince and he'd be like, oh, you got to prioritize and organize and build the team and pass the stuff you don't want to do off to somebody else. And it's almost just too much. And I totally burned out, And along with the body aches, I started connecting the dots going, man, I don't know if I actually have ever been truly present in my life. It's always next achievement, or as us as realtors, we start back over at 0 GCI on January 1st every year, so my team would always know, like, I'm in a bad mood, and I always felt like I did a decent job as a leader and didn't let it rub off on them, but I couldn't help it. I was just being me, and then as I started noticing kind of the pains along with phone ringing and me kind of going, man, I don't want to talk to this client, and then I went, I don't want to talk to any clients. I really then started to go, okay, what's wrong? What's wrong and how do we fix this? I mentioned this on the little breakout session a couple hours ago, so sorry this is repetitive for a few of you. But this goes hand in hand, I think, with what's going on in the world right now. Sure, you could say if you're my age demographically or at a similar spot in your career, maybe you too experienced burnout. But I think this translates to a grander scale, and the world is really at burnout right now. Like, add COVID and emotions and all that, but here's what I said in that session this morning. Walter Isaacson, he's the #1 expert on Benjamin Franklin. He teaches at Yale. He wrote a book about the transition of economies, and he said in the United States of America, in the Industrial Revolution, we were the economies of hand. People got paid by doing work with labor, hand, sweat of their brow. In the 80s, we transitioned into an economy of the mind. So intellectual property became a thing, licenses, patents all grew like crazy, internet came about, and we were all focusing on how we could use our mind to generate revenue. And if you really think about that deeply, we started awarding monetary value. We started paying dollars for things that used to have no monetary value. The #1 example is probably Google, okay? Libraries existed before Google. Libraries index, code, and file things. Google indexed, code, and filed the internet. But it became a wildly profitable business. #1 most profitable business in the history of all time and fastest growth, but on fractions of pennies earned per transaction. So all that started changing. The book now argues that over the last 2 years, this has nothing to do with COVID, this was written pre-COVID, but I think it relates even more now, is we're transitioning into an economy of the heart, okay? Regardless of political views or the side you might be on, there seems to be this massive motion. I can't speak internationally, but I think around the country that people are starting to have a little more heartfelt related discussions even in business and starting to project out further. How could this affect all of us? How is this going to affect humanity? So while I was having my little midlife crisis and burnout, I started noticing that it was brewing everywhere else. So I started going, have I changed? Or is it my clients? You know, if my heart drops and I don't want to pick up the phone, is it me or the clients? And I started obviously coming to the conclusion that it was me, and I had to get back to a mental state of when I just got into the business and everything was super exciting and fun. Time for another famous dad quote. When your mind is at dis-ease, the body gets disease. And luckily I caught it early, but these were things that were starting to trickle into my life in my mid-30s. So what makes us happy? Tell me, what makes you happy?
Friendships.
Relationships, friendships, good one. The beach, love the beach. Cool, me too. My wife loves the beach. The animals, okay, awesome. Dopamine delivers that actual feeling of excitement and happiness. And there's a book written by Andy Andrews. He's had 2 New York Times bestsellers, but his most popular one is called The 7 Decisions. And Andy's a really cool guy. He's from Southern California, and my business partner in the commercial buildings I own, who's also a dear friend of mine, he flew in Andy privately to Salt Lake City probably 3 years ago to talk to a small group. And me and him and Andy went to a steak dinner the night he flew in. And Andy, I have to give you a really short background on him. He was homeless for about 3 years in Southern California, lived under a viaduct, had some amazing life experiences, and then has owned and ran and had multiple successful startups and 2 New York Times bestsellers. And he talks a lot about decisions you can make in your life that lead to ultimate happiness and or relationship growing. So we're at dinner, and you got to understand my business partner, he's more put together than me. You know, his hair's always perfect, and he's a really striking, tall, dapper gentleman. He's very professional, and he cares a lot about what people think. And we were at Fleming's, and he knew a few people at the steakhouse, and we sat down with Andy, and Andy said, "What makes you happy?" So we had the same discussion I just prompted you with, and we were given the typical scripted answers. And Andy's looking around like this. This is the author. He doesn't know anybody in the restaurant. And I could feel my buddy Josh is getting uncomfortable. I know him well enough that I could just tell he's uncomfortable. And then Andy goes, "Well, I'll tell you what causes happiness." And he's just looking at everybody like the cheesiest smile. It was so embarrassing. And he just held it. I mean, I didn't hold it that long on you guys, but he held it embarrassingly long that we had no other option but to laugh. And then he's like, "Stop, right there. Feel your body. I just caused a chemical reaction in your body, okay? So you can deliver that. It can be artificially created. But the other lesson to be learned is you have the ability here in any instance to just change your mood, change your attitude, feel better, feel happy." So that was pretty eye-opening for me. And dad quote number 3 says, "Pause. Experience now. It's truly the only moment you can affect." Okay? And you'll start seeing a theme here. We're going to connect where you think you want to go in your business and all those goals you want to achieve and everything that's up here and what you've written down you're going to take home in this conference. But to have it last, to have it be a habit, and to have you continue enjoying what you need, what you're going to do in your business, you've got to assign it with a feeling and an emotion. And those need to be positive. So how do we get there? Law of attraction. How do you become so at peace, so full of energy, have such a zest for life that people, your clients, your sphere, are attracted to you? So you probably all know somebody who just naturally possesses this ability to encapsulate the law of attraction. It's like they exist, and so people magnetize to them. So if you do know somebody, just kind of think of them as I dive through this. So contrast that with how your perception of what you think the world might be feeling right now, or let's just say your SOI. The people you network with, the people you've connected with, I'm going to jump to some conclusions. I'm going to imagine that, number one, they are all jaded consumers. What do I mean by jaded consumers? You're so desensitized nowadays, you don't even realize it. Right? I hear my dad talk, and he's like, well, yeah, we used to wait for things to be on sale. I'm like, Dad, everything's on sale all the time. Okay, you want a new TV? Pull up on Amazon. Is it $50 less at Costco? But now you got to drive down and get it. Like, you can window shop and do it in microseconds now. Okay? And so over time, that's created kind of, a very different type of consumer. So when we still apply the same sales tactics, especially if our motivation is just, I gotta get another one closed, I need to hit number 10 for the month and I'm at number 9, whatever it might be, you can will yourself, if you're a really motivated person, you can will yourself for so long to do that. And believe me, I've managed a couple luxury brands, seen a lot of top producers, travel around the country with the Rethink Council for 6 years, Megan, right? And so probably interacted with 60 to 75 of the top producers in this network. I've been to their offices. I've seen how they operate. And I dare say that all of us, every single one of them at some point, has come up against that wall. And there was a famous book in the 80s, The Art of Selling. And it's laughable nowadays. It was written in 86. And it really goes through all the phone soliciting tactics for you to master the art of the phone. I know one guy I've officed next to on and off for the last 17 years who is, on a scale of 0 to 10, he's a 0 or a 1 in almost all aspects of real estate, but he's a 10 out of 10 on the art of selling. Old school tactics, but they still work and apply for him, and it's the way he likes to do the business. And so he's had a 40-year career of being really good at one specific aspect. So here I was going, well, what's that aspect for me? How do we figure that out for ourselves? If two things combine, you're vibrating at a high good energy and feeling good and happy about the business and law of attraction's working for you and success is coming into your life, combined with you're projecting that same energy in your sphere of influence, the people you work with, you truly want the best for them, closings and money comes. Trust me. That's no problem. That's clockwork. It's like science. The question is, how do we get and stay there? So the rest of what I'm going to show you today are now you understand the story and the premise. The rest of what I'm going to show you is my quick hacks. The things that I've learned to put into your habitual routine, to put into your mouth, to read and consume, perhaps a few recommendations on stuff to buy, and I'll walk you through my 6-year journey of stuff that helped me get there and stay there, and what works. They say you have to have a really good morning routine, but you're not going to have a good morning routine if you don't have a nighttime routine first, right? Yeah, just be super motivated. Wake up at 5 in the morning and you'll be super energized. Not really. Unless you powered down the night before, you're gonna have a hard time having a great morning routine. So, also, if you're taking notes, I'll just tell you so you don't waste tons of time up front. Do we have a hyperlink or a QR code? Hyperlink. Okay, we got a hyperlink at the end you can write down, and it'll give you all of this in a nice digital format, along with my dad quotes. So, you recharge your phone every night, right? And there's a lot of science that says it's emitting Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, and there's all these reasons you shouldn't have it right by your bed physically. There's also a bunch of reasons you shouldn't have it right at your nightstand mentally, okay? And we could dive down that rabbit hole. But when you're plugging that phone in, preferably I'd like you to at least put it in your bathroom or your closet or a closed door. start getting into the habit of thinking, I'm plugging this in to recharge. It's time for me to plug in and recharge. And that's with the nighttime routine. Some little quick hacks, things I've found that really work. Natural remedies to helping you get kind of tired are melatonin. Most of you probably heard of that. Many of you maybe have heard of reishi mushrooms or haven't. Reishi mushroom can be bought in like a tea format. There's a company out of Southern California called Forsymatic, and they grind their own mushrooms and put it in like a cocoa tea or a chai mix. And it's actually good tasting. And I'm a fan of not sticking to one thing because it comes really habitually, your body gets used to it. So you want to rotate melatonin and reishi. That gives you a few options of something to take to start having you wind down. I'm giving you a high level here, so I'm not going to dive into all the books and information you can consume, but trust me when I tell you all of these are backed by experts. No electronics before 1 hour before bed is a theme in tons of books. It's probably the hardest habit to break for us sales folk. Like, I get it, trust me. And I'll be brutally honest, I still don't stick to it. Like, not all the time. But I try pretty hard and I'm conscious of it. Slow digested protein or no food. I could go down a rabbit hole here. I am pretty experienced in the whole fitness world and nutrition. But I'll tell you just some high level, simple things that work for everybody. A lot of people I've mentored throughout the years are like, yeah, but Jake, I'm just starving at night. I would have something and it's all the stress. If you have to have something, slow digested protein, blueberries and yogurt, a protein shake with no sugar, stuff like that is going to affect your sleep the least and be okay for you. There's also, really, if you want to go down the protein supplement suggestions, I have some websites, but there's some specific that have reishi or melatonin inserted in them, so you can kind of have that as a nighttime snack. There's a lot of science that's coming out that says low light, not just detaching from your phone, but having like ambient lighting, just a lamp on or something like that, and actually changing the light in the room, lowering blinds and stuff, 30 to 60 minutes before you actually head into bed really does help. And we could spend hours on this. This is probably the number one thing I've discovered even since I built this presentation, but just the last 2 years, is breathing exercises and meditation. Yeah, I'll tell you this. I've tried pretty habitually for 2 years to get to this certain level of meditation everyone talks about. Like, it's like you're supposed to be super buzzy. It's almost like you're on like euphoric drugs, but nothing's in your system. And I've read some books that talk about this. I'm like, how do you really get there? When I say I've tried diligently, that's 3 to 5 days a week for 2 years. I have had 3 for sure, perhaps a 4th experience where I totally lose track of time. And mind you, this is coming from a guy who, like, I do yoga and all this. My mobility is really bad, so I do all these things. Like, I'll sit in a third world squat all the time at my office during the day and just kind of see how long I can stay there. Nothing, I know this sounds crazy, nothing works better for mobility than meditation. You would think stretching does, but I'll have a kink in my neck just from cortisol stress release. That's where I carry mine when I'm emailing all day and texting. And if I get to that higher level of frequency in a meditation and I'm just really chilled out and I lose track of time, and then I come to, it might have only been 15, 20 minutes, but I'll literally go like this and my whole neck will crack without me even touching it or doing something like that, which I can't get that to happen after an hour of yoga. So what's scientifically going on? Technology is on the cutting edge right now. I know this isn't our industry, but it's really cool stuff. Technology is on the cutting edge of bridging the gap between neuroscience and what MD doctors say and physiologically what's going on when you meditate. If you're into this stuff, the person you want to follow is Dr. Joe Dispenza. He is the guy on planet Earth right now that's bridging that gap. It will blow your mind. If you watch some of his stuff on YouTube, he's had multiple people with chronic illnesses come to his events and walk out totally healed. So really cool stuff. It's a whole other career to explore. We don't have time for that. But if you're trying to get yourself back connected to that happy spot where you're enjoying what you're doing, dial in your nighttime routine and have some quiet, private moments. Best if you can get there meditatively, and it only needs to be 10 minutes or so. Okay? When you pull this up later, here's a bunch of suggestions on actual products. Every product I'm suggesting here, I've owned, I've taken, I've used it quite a bit. I love, for sleep time, my chili pad, which is just a pad you put down on the bed. You fill it with water maybe once a week, and it dials your mattress to a cooler temperature. You can put it over the top of anything. And Oura Ring. I have my Oura Ring on right here. I have to charge it probably once a week or so. It prompts me on my phone. And this will track all of your sleeping habits to the minute. When you fell asleep, when you got into REM sleep, when you got into deep sleep, how long you spent there. Then it'll start tracking on a chart monthly habits and start lobbing you up suggestions on what to do. They're not crazy expensive. All this tech is converging right now. It's really reasonable. I think you're probably $800 for an Oura Ring. And I just, you notice I don't even have an Apple Watch. I don't like more stuff going off on me. Back to me being a junkie 5 or 6 years ago for any quick fix, I started learning that being that junkie was part of the problem. And I didn't need more stuff. I needed to chill out a bit and get back presently connected to what I love to do. All right. If you've had a good nighttime routine, it should be easy for you to have a great morning routine. Let's be brutally honest. How many of you wake up, lean over, grab the phone, check the time, and then scroll down to have your email recalibrate? Yeah. Come on. It's got to be more than 50%. We do it, right? Yeah, we do it. Oh man, there's so many reasons that's destructive and distractive for us. The number one thing that does that is very unconscious to all of us, regardless of you going, I'm going to have a busy day, or I don't have problem emails, so it should be a good day. None of that matters as much as just the addictive scroll down and the mood change that can be instilled in you in the morning just from doing that attempt. Okay? And it's the storylines we create in our head. So even if there's no problem emails and nothing specifically needed to get to, something that popped up new is going to be jogging your mind, and that's going to occupy your thoughts until you get into your office, until you address it. So let's try to occupy our thoughts with some more positive things first thing in the morning. You could try the big cheesy Andrew Adams smile in the mirror. Okay, that works. That will release dopamine. A lot of authors and psychologists will suggest a gratitude journal. First thing in the morning, write down 2 to 3 things that you're most grateful for that day. I have learned that I can't meditate at night. And I told you I've really been trying to get into it, but the time for me is in the morning. I don't think it matters when, but why does it work in the morning for me? I can wake up early, 4 kids, 2 dogs, and hopefully not have distractions. I still do 50% in the mornings, but and something else that matters big time is the first thing in your mouth. Fitness and nutrition is different for everyone. So I don't build this out to give you, really specific recommendations, because they would be different for everybody based on gender, age, where you live, altitude if we wanted to get super specific. But I do think there's some general principles that really matter. So what is the number one biohacker in the United States right now, probably the world, Ben Greenfield? If you want to follow him, he suggests on these sites, it's like just water. You've actually been fasting from water for 8 to 10 hours, and even though you might have to go to the bathroom first thing in the morning, it's really what your body needs. He suggests at least 8 to 12 ounces, depending on size, first thing in the morning. I had made a habit for a long time, over a decade, of going to the gym really early. So I was the type of guy that's like, boom, alarm off, jump out of bed, throw my stuff on, grab whatever source of caffeine I could get the quickest, pound that so I'm awake by the time I'm getting in the gym. Another thing that was probably leading to my body aches. Follow my thought there. I wasn't necessarily taking anything that was causing body aches, but it's that type of just go, 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 gotta produce, gotta win attitude that starts catching up with you. a lot of people, I don't particularly do this last suggestion, grounding and mobility routine, because I do wake up, drink some water, try to sit down and meditate, and then as soon as my wife is kind of up and stirring, we'll go to the gym together. But I try to work in this mobility routine, and this can really help you in your life, into those little moments that you have free time. So many top producing realtors are just like, I'm busy, I can't fit in anything else. I'm so busy. And if it's not me producing, it's the 6 people on your team, right? And like their needs. And to be a good leader, you need to be plugged in and know what's going on. But you do have 30-second windows. You do have stand around time if you do a fitness class or something where you're waiting for instruction or you're lifting with a partner and any of those little moments, you just gotta become insatiable about working mobility into those things. So I am now pretty famous for being approached at the airport because I'm always either using some tool to stretch and be mobile, or I'm just using chairs and stretching out, and people have asked me about it. But I've been testing the way you test your biological age. You can do a genetic test, and they actually measure the end of your chromosomes. It's called your telomeres. Your telomeres will tell you what your biological age is. First time I did this, I tested biologically 3 years older than I was physically. And I was shocked because I've always been relatively healthy. So I'm like, man, it must be stress. Over the last 6 years, as I've continued to test, I've reversed my biological age 4 years. So I'm now testing a year younger than my physical age. And I would say probably the number one reason for that, meditation and just working little mobility moments into my daily routine. Let me just highlight a few of these suggestions right here. A grounding mat is simply just a mat you buy that emits the same frequency that Mother Earth does out of dirt. And you can, I type with it, so I have the grounding mat here at my desk, my office, and then my keyboard, so my hands are resting on it a lot. And they say that's supposed to keep you grounded. For those of you that are into yoga and chakras, it keeps your root chakra grounded, connected to the earth, keeps you realistic and humble. Excuse Me, Your Life is Waiting is a book I'm re-listening to right now, and just sent it to my team, and everybody's been listening to the last couple of weeks. The main theme there, and I just give you highlights so you can look them up if you want and chase it further. The main theme here is connecting or defining where you want to go in life, what you want to do, and then assigning that a positive feeling and emotion. So I'm totally the type of guy that always despised things when I was told to do, like affirmations in the mirror. And although he's an empowering speaker, I always found like a Tony Robbins pretty hokey. I'm the type of agent that turned my nose up to all types of coaching my entire first 15 years of my career. I've met Brian Buffini, I've met Tom Ferry, but I was just like, I'm not doing this. And then I started realizing, and this book addresses this, that if you're assigning a preconceived notion and a negative feeling about something, it's not going to work for you anyways. Like, forget it, right? And so this book really goes down this rabbit hole. There was a famous book in the 1960s by Ram Dass, if any of you know who he is, and she makes Ram Dass's theories in his 60s book current to today's world. So that's a cool read. Let's go next. All right, my quick hacks for you for exercise. Again, in the spirit of genuinely fitting everybody, it's this simple. Just have a routine and a plan, and that routine and plan, if continued to be worked upon, it does just become a habit. Dad quote number 4, there is no discipline. It's simply that you choose something else above what you should choose, right? Especially if we're high-powered salespeople or energetic, we got a lot to-dos every day, a lot of things on the calendar. you probably don't need a coach to be instilling discipline on you so that you fulfill your appointments. I'm guessing everyone in this room is at least can check that box and they're able to do that. So if there's no discipline, it's just simply we have choices throughout the day, and every one of those little decisions leads to a choice that we should or shouldn't do something, or we chose something over something else. So as I've coached and mentored under the realm of nutrition and exercise throughout the years, I've learned the number one thing is just to choose it, plan it, and make a habit. If you are lacking that at all, or it's a constant thing, once a year around New Year's, you're trying to re-motivate yourself to get out on a routine walk or whatever, here's some great ways to do it under the umbrella of real estate, okay? One, just sign up for a race or an event or a walk together. You're building community, you're connecting with your sphere, and probably the number one way I've garnered business over the last 2 decades is just building my SOI within the fitness community. Granted, I mentioned the CrossFit stuff and things I've done, but I have ran the gamut. I've gone to F45, I've gone to Orange Theory, gone to yoga, I passes at all these places. Some might say it's a waste of money, but prospecting-wise, that goes a lot further for me than lead gen. And I have found that if you share a common interest, yours doesn't have to be fitness and nutrition, but if you share a common interest with a sphere or a group, you don't have to be the 80s art of selling pushy salesperson, handing out your business card and reminding them that you do real estate. It just comes natural. If you're all experiencing some of that together, you're working hard together, or you're sweating hard together, or you do an obstacle course together, ultimately people are going to see how you react and handle pressure, and then they will ask you what you do, and everyone will always talk about real estate. It becomes super, super easy at that point. If you're questioning what to do, again, keeping this tied into real estate, I'm going to suggest that you just go out and experience your market. Okay, what the heck does that mean? Walk or bike instead of driving your car to the next restaurant. Okay, date night or meeting people on the weekends. Our favorite purchase of the last 3 or 4 years is probably e-bikes. And Adam and I own a second home in southern Utah. It's about 4 hours from our homes up north. And we have a set of e-bikes down there. And we have a set of e-bikes up at our houses in Salt Lake. And he lives maybe a mile from me. As a crow flies, it's only like 200 yards, but different subdivisions. And our kids e-bike back and forth. To get a little hippie again on you, there is something about not having a motor, but going between 8 and 12 miles an hour that I'm telling you is the best way to experience a town or city. I'm telling you, if you haven't done it yet. It's the wind and no sound and all that, but you can cover so much more ground and distance. And as I've explored and done this for fun in my own market, I can show people, and I think it makes sales more natural and exciting to me because I can explain this to them. But I've now been to many big cities and experienced them on bike. Vancouver, New York, Chicago, DC 2 or 3 times. So there's something magical and I dare say spiritual about that. So back to if you're writing down those 2 or 3 things you're going to implement after this conference, and if any of that is under the realm or umbrella of just fitness, you don't need to be like a competitive CrossFit junkie like I was. You don't need to do an NPC competition and burn yourself out. I got super fit, but I was totally miserable mentally, okay? You just need to explore a little bit, create a habit, and ask yourself how you can fit it into your real estate routine. How is it going to be most easily fit into what you already do in real estate? And how can you have it enhance your market knowledge? It really, beyond just checking the box and creating that habit, if you'll do that, it'll add excitement to your career too. It'll make you re-engaged and excited for your business. When it comes to exercise, I found probably the number one thing for people is you just have to love it or do something that you love. Okay, Craig Bozeman, you guys probably a bunch of skiers, I'm imagining, a bunch of realtors. And is it a way a lot of them get business?
For some.
Yeah.
I know some who will actually purposely get on chairs, not the people they're with, by themselves.
Uh-huh.
And they have embroidered on their jacket just
Yep.
to start up conversations.
Yep. My owner has 31 offices in the state of Utah. A lot of them are Park City, so a similar ski market, Park City and Deer Valley. And we have a couple of our top producers, not on teams. A lot of the sage demographic that's been in the career 40, 50 years, and that's their number one source of business over 4 decades, is just riding on the chair with somebody else and doing what they love in nature, enjoying it, but then making contacts that way. There is a massive difference, and back to consumers being jaded, I'm telling you, we're at the crux of the mountain right now, and I'm going on a little tangent here. This isn't in the presentation, so write this down if you want to, but the most captivating book I've read in the last probably 5 to 10 years is Peter Diamandis, The Future is Faster Than You Think. It will blow your mind, it will make you question everything you're doing in your career, and you'll go, oh my gosh, in the next 5 years, if we think the last decade changed rapidly technologically, the next 5 is going to blow your mind. And Peter also is the guy that coined, I forget exactly how the phrase went, but the law of abundance. So he's abundance, the law of abundance. So he's friends with Elon Musk. He owns Singularity University. He's the X Prize founder. Really amazing, amazing guy. But he has a TED Talk. You can just look up on YouTube that goes over the law of abundance. And he assigns a bunch of statistics to what Vince was trying to say this morning. He says, oh, we're worried about running out of water. Here's how many gallons of water on the earth, and here's the consumption. We're worried about running out of land. Here's how many global acres there are. And as he goes through all this, you start realizing that there is major abundance, and he convinces you so. But his other book just came out right before COVID, Future is Faster Than You Think. There is a chapter on real estate there and how consuming real estate could change. But once you listen to that, you'll come to the same conclusion as I did, that consumer habits changed drastically because of the internet. And we've all learned to kind of jive with that in our industry. You got to be a chameleon. You have to be decent on the phone, but also reply to email, but also check in social messages, but also be pretty good at text. And you should incorporate video. We have to be chameleons at communication now. Okay. His book will implant the new ideas of what that's going to look like in the next 5. And it's going to change faster and more drastically than it did the past 10. I promise you. It's rather mind-blowing. Dad quote number 5 says, it's simple. The best way to be productive is to have a plan and routine. The best time to start a new plan and routine is now. My buddy that got embarrassed at the steak restaurant that owns my commercial buildings with me, he is the number one implementer I've met in my life. He's also a really amazing dude that 24 years old, he was a personal trainer at 24 Hour Fitness and did that and basically partied with his single friends in his spare time. He's now 43 and he has over 100 units, residential, 4 commercial buildings, a team of 70. He's in the lending business. He's the number one financier of doctors and physicians in the United States. Not that this matters, but just to give a frame of reference, well over 100 million net worth at this point. Done it all in 17 years. And when you ask him his key to success, of all the things he's learned, and he's a huge conference goer, he's part of the Genius Network, he's met Elon Musk and Peter Diamandis, all these guys. And believe me, I know him intimately. We do trail runs together like every week. I've heard him multiple times explain his number one key for success, and he'll say it like this. Jake, I go to all this stuff, I consume all this info, and I am not the smartest guy in the room, and I am not an expert, and there are people who understand the lending industry far better than I do, on a producing level and a corporate level. He's like, but I implement better than anybody. He steals best practices, and he leaves the conference, and he is the guy on the plane on the way home, implementing those things into his CRM, calendaring it out for his people, saying, we will do this, and then coming home and being a positive, happy, emotional leader of his team in regards to the goals he just set on the plane home. Number one implementer. So there is no time like now. You got to just start that stuff. Let's go to we only got 2 more categories here. Nutrition. All right, don't let this scare you. Do not do anything bad or wrong, but I can give you some quick hacks. 5 or 6 years ago, when I was in the thick of having these body aches and being tested by some experts and professionals, seeing a bunch of doctors and buying anything I could, it was also about the time that in the supplement world, all this stuff was coming out that was like, oh, you can buy, anybody seen Quest bars? So Quest actually started making other brands, and it was like, you could buy a Quest pizza, and if you flip it over, the nutritional value of that pizza is like no sugar, hardly any fat, and a bunch of protein. Okay, I think that's what I need and want. Well, how come I'm consuming these things and not feeling great? Sure, building muscle, but not feeling healthy. My microbiome in my gut isn't great. And this was not a quick learn. This was like a 6-year process. And it's not that I don't eat packaged foods. I have almonds sitting in here, and I'll eat those later. And I do eat some natural kind of packaged bars. But in general, if you can avoid a package, and as Johnny said this morning, I was shocked to hear him say this. He didn't even say it this way. I'll bet you money if we dove deeper, the reason he was so fast in football in the 60s and 70s is because he's basically eating vegan. I'm not vegan. I have gone on stints and ate vegan for certain amounts of time. I feel phenomenal when I do it. All my gut bloating goes away. All my brain fog goes away. I sleep phenomenally. But he probably had that massive competitive advantage because no other football athletes were eating vegan back then. Okay? And he probably had less body swelling, less joint aches, quicker repair than all the other guys. So it doesn't shock me that he had really quick firing muscles for running. So when in doubt, if you have the option, just go with unpackaged. It's that simple. Live food, fresh fruits and vegetables. It sucks at first if you're used to some stuff. It sucks, right? Like it sucks bad. But after, like I've done some really strict detoxing diets, and I've done some things that are like 5 days of fasting, and use water. Miserable. But as soon as you start feeling good, and you assign that feeling and emotion with what you're physically doing, you become very empowered, and then it's really easy to follow. And then your body kicks in and starts doing what you asked it to do, but on routine, and then you will start craving said foods. So if an apple a day keeps the doctor away, you don't like them, and you choose something packaged instead, I promise 1 week eating apples, you'll crave it and change that feeling. Look, we're in the real estate business. I don't know about you, but I eat out like every day at some point. I do a lot of lunches. It might just be coffee in the morning. On weekends, I'm out with my wife, the kids a lot. So you got to just learn where you can go pretty quickly for food that makes you feel good, okay? And I don't really mean eating your woes away, as in make you feel good. I mean, your gut feels good, you're not getting bloating, you're not tired, you still have energy after, it's sustainable. And that's different for everyone. So I hesitate to give any specifics, but I will tell you one of my keys to lowering my afternoon cortisol stress, these guys know this, I did it for years. I'd get back in the afternoon, get remotivated, and all the stress, and I'd take Advil all the time. My number one key is probably where I eat out for lunch. And I nixed Diet Coke years ago. I nixed dairy because I just could tell that's how it worked for me. A few things that finally clicked, learned where I could eat. Now it's never even an issue anymore. And I don't crave anything I can't have. Natural fats are good, so you need fat in your diet. I'm sure you've heard that. Sugar and dairy are really the enemies. If you read any nutrition book over the last decade, yeah, there's fads, there's diets, there's all this stuff. I tend to say that there absolutely is not one size fits all, so you can't just get one and follow it. But all of them have a similar theme around dairy and sugar. All right, this is the end. Pre-cooking can really save you if you're a really habitual person. That makes it difficult. And diets are fads. You got to find a way of life to this. Take these supplements and suggestions in hand. If you pull up our URL at the end, Viome is an awesome company. I use it. They do customized vitamins and pre and postbiotics. They just mail them to you monthly. They test your gut every 6 months just by a saliva pad or a finger prick. You mail it into them. They customize what you can and can't eat according to the microbiome in your gut right now. This testing used to be $3,500 for a panel 3 years ago. I think it's now $600. Like, the costs are coming way down, the tech's getting way better. App syncs to your phone, and it's very in-depth, gives you tons of suggestions. Ben Greenfield's probably the #1 person to follow right now in the United States on biohacking, fitness, longevity, or Human Garage is where I went in Venice. This is a really cool meal prep website. Makes everything super easy for you in bulk. Okay, last one. Time management, knowing when to say no, especially if you're getting up to more top producer level, your team, you just find yourself always running around with your head cut off. The key is when to politely say no, committing to what you can do and fulfilling your word and doing it, but not getting totally overburnt. We require rest to perform, so you got to get that nighttime routine, sleep well, track that, know your habits. You got to take vacations too. I mean, I'd suggest you need at least a full week 2 times a year. Can't tell you all the reasons why because we don't have time. Take time to be present. 7-year gap between my 3rd and 4th kid. The reason is I was a total hardhead and lived my life one way. And it was the biggest disagreement with me and my wife in our marriage in 20 years was that 4th kid. Because for 7 years I said no. And then when I took time to be present, I questioned what was I really wanted in life, and I got things back aligned. I not only continued production and did more, my ancillary businesses became over 50% of my income on top of my real estate sales, which I've been trying to get to for years. My passive income all continued to grow, but I started re-enjoying my career again, reconnecting with people, and utahcribs.com is /presentations. We'll come back to this in just a second if you want to write it down. Click one more. Keep going until you see Chunny. I think it's after all the dad quotes. There he is. So he turns 2 next week, and he's a really, really happy guy. And it's okay. Of course, you love all your children the same. This was last weekend ATVing in Southern Utah. Of course, you love all your children, but I will tell you, matching being present with this 4th kid and being in a happy state in my career and feeling like my culture is vibing with the team and everything like that, he's really my most enjoyable by a mile because I'm able to take that time and be present with him. So, hope that helps you.
Yeah. Good.